This is why it is so important to stop building an Airbnb business. You need to be building a short-term rental business. Don't build your business on somebody else's land. Build your business to grow and to grow your brand so that you can have repeat clients that is not built on Airbnb and not built on Verbo. I do want to update you guys on the new Airbnb policy. So they updated their cancellation policies. They've asked you to update yours as well. And on top of that, they've updated their payment terms. So I want to update you guys on what that is today. First things first, a lot of you guys have gotten messages. So there's been two messages that have been sent. One has been directly in your Airbnb app. So if you pull up your phone and you don't see this, you might want to check your email. But I got a notification in the Airbnb app saying your listing will move to the firm cancellation policy. They say, Airbnb says, hey, we've seen that hosts who switch from strict, which is what I am now, and strict policy is basically they can get a refund within 24 hours of booking the house. And then they basically can get a whole refund up until 14 days, right? So a whole refund up until 14 days of their stay, they can take advantage of that. But like day 13, before their stay, before their check-in, they get no refund at all. So we get 100% of that. So that is the policy that I recommend. But basically what Airbnb was saying is hosts who have switched from strict to firm, which is firm is just basically 7 days, globally earn 10% more on average. So we're removing strict and moving all listings to firm. That's not okay with me because that is a lot of lost revenue in my eyes. The first thing for me is Airbnb says, yeah, 10% more. If you want to earn 10% more, switch to firm. Well, globally, the average revenue for an Airbnb listing is $13,000 to $14,000. All my properties are 50K or more. Most of mine are 80K or more, right? Some of mine are 200K more. So I wouldn't consider my properties average. And for somebody to cancel on me within, 14 days of their stay or maybe 15 days before they check in, and this place sleeps 20 or this place even sleeps 8, it's tougher to get it rebooked because it takes time to plan those things, right? So you have to opt out of this. Again, I don't really trust their data about, globally, making 10% more. I know I'm not going to make 10% more. I know I'm probably going to get the short end of the stick on this. So you can opt out and you can keep your strict policy. However, the thing with the strict policy is it's moving from 14 days down to 7 days. So they say, hey, you can keep your strict policy, but you actually have to go from 14 days to 7 days. So it's really not keeping the same policy. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that here in a minute. The second email says basically, and this is something that I thought was actually happening already. You have 24 hours of a free cancellation period as long as it's 7 days before check-in, right? So I thought this was actually kind of normal. I think they're changing it to 48 hours now. But again, that big change is getting rid of this strict cancellation policy. And even if you decide to opt in, again, it's going to be 7 days. So it's no longer 14 days. It's basically 7 days. So Airbnb actually created this new policy called limited. And limited is actually going to be probably something I will move to in the future for all new listings. So I can't opt in for a new listing that I want to add. Like I've got another one coming live and probably about the end of the month. I can't select strict for that property for any new listing right now. And so I'm probably going to opt with limited, which is between days 7 and 14, I get 50% of the revenue, or actually of the nightly stay. So I get 50%. And then it's 100% within 7 days. So it's actually, in my opinion, just a little bit better than strict, or at least Airbnb's new strict. So this is pretty much Airbnb's new strict. I don't know why they're calling it limited. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. They should have just changed strict to, hey, days 14 through 7, you get 15%, and then instead of 100%. Right. So again, the newer properties that I do have coming online, they are bigger properties. So I may do the strict policy, which is strict 30. There's strict 30 and there's strict 60. And those are like obviously the more and more strict ones. So 30 days out, you get a full refund. 60 days out, you get another full refund. Or I'm sorry, you get all of it as a host. 60 days out, you also get all of it as a host. So Overall, I think limited is not bad, but I tell this to a lot of people as well. If you're in like I would say saturated market, if you're struggling in your market, right? And there's been a bunch of properties that have been added and you haven't updated your listing in a while. You haven't updated the photos, you haven't added anything into your listing in a while and you expect to get 2021, 2022 numbers. You're going to struggle. And one of the levers that you can pull is changing your cancellation policy. So Airbnb is not wrong in saying that changing your cancellation policy will help you get more bookings. I guarantee you will get more bookings, but the downside is those bookings may cancel on you. They may cancel on you last minute. But I still say if you're struggling to get booked and you're in the Smokies or maybe you're in Orlando, consider testing. So if you're strict right now, consider testing firm. You may not be able to move back to strict, but you can move back to limited. But what you want to do is you want to see if it changes your conversions and your conversion rate and your views. Okay. So I use something called Rank Breeze. You can go to strsecrets.com/Rank Breeze and just get a free, I think it's like a free like 7-day trial or something like that. But Rank Breeze, essentially what they do is they can track for future dates and future guest counts where you're ranked on Airbnb's algorithm. So what page you're ranked on. If you're ranked on page 2, you're ranked on page 10, you're ranked on page 15, you're ranked on page 1. I've got like 14 properties on there. All of mine are ranked on page 1. Well, there's one property that's ranked on page 2 right now, which is in the Boone area, but it's doing really well. We get a lot of Verbo bookings, and I think that's probably why, because the calendars are all blocked off because of the Verbo bookings. But you want to be able to tell where you're ranking. And so what I typically tell people is you want to A/B test this. So when you do reduce or increase your cancellation policy, let's say some of you guys are like, heck no, I'm not going to limited. I want to go to strict. That's totally fine. But you want to track where you're ranking after you make that change. Okay. Because Airbnb may promote listings that have more relaxed cancellation policies. So that's not always a bad thing. If you drop in the rankings, but you're still getting booked, who cares, right? So people are still finding you. They still see that you have a great place. They still see you have great reviews. That's okay, right? But you're going to want to track it over time. If you keep going down and down and down and down and down, less views for you means less likelihood for people to convert. Okay. So A/B test this. If you are changing your policy, again, you're going to want to track, hey, I changed my policy on July 3rd. I'm opting in to keeping all of my strict. So I am literally looking at Rank Breeze and I know what my conversion rate is for all of my properties over the last 12 months. And I know what my views are for all of my properties are for the last 12 months. So I'm able to look back at data and say, all right, in August of 2024, here's how many views we had, and here's our conversion ratio for August of 2024. Now I'm going to track, hey, I made this change and I kept strict. What did Airbnb do for basically my impressions, or where are they putting me in their algorithm? And then I can make a decision of, all right, maybe they're really just throwing me down and I'm not converting and I'm not getting the views. Maybe I am just going to change my cancellation policy. So instead of changing my pricing or, spending 10 grand to upgrade something, maybe it's something as simple as a cancellation policy you can change, but you need to have that data and you need to track this. Okay. So you need to track it either in the spreadsheet or again, use something like Rank Breeze, which I still really like. Some people don't like it. Some people use IntelliHost, but for me, it just helps me have peace of mind for me to know and see it all in one place. I think it's like $75 a quarter. So even if you're using it just for like 3 properties or 30 properties, in my opinion, I think it makes a lot of sense. So I know I went through that pretty quickly. If you guys want access to my a little one pager that I put together of the cancellation policies and kind of the changes that are made, all you need to do is comment policy and I will send you this policy. There's flexible, there's moderate, limited, firm, strict, and then strict 30 and 60. What the guest refund window is, what the host payout is, and then also what the action steps that I would recommend you guys take. And this is really just taking what I just talked about in the last 10 minutes, summarizing it, and I'm giving it to you guys in a simple one pager. So that's it on the cancellation policy side. One more thing on that. This is why it is so, so, so important to stop building an Airbnb business. You need to be building a short term rental business, right? And building a short term rental business means you have repeat clients and you have repeat guests. And those repeat guests, you pay, for an initial guest, you pay about 3%, right? The guest pays 15% to find you on Airbnb, and then you pay Airbnb about 3% of that total payout, right? You're paying 3% for a new client, right? You get their phone number. You can ask them for their email information. You can ask them over the phone. I typically don't recommend asking them through the Airbnb platform anymore, just due to their off platform policy that they put in there. But get their contact information and then market to them. Give them opportunities to book with you directly in the future. That list that you're going to be keeping, you need to have a CRM or some sort of list that is off of Airbnb, that is off of Verbo, that you can have somewhere else, so that if Airbnb gets shut down, like we talked about in a podcast with Amanda, the traveling realtor, a couple of weeks ago, that you have people that you can market to, right? So one of the great ways to do this is through text marketing, through email marketing. And what I use is Go STR Marketing. It's created by one of my good buddies, Sam Mastretta. I mean, his company basically automates, after a guest stays with you, email and text marketing on your behalf to direct them to book directly with you versus booking on Airbnb. For me, we've done about $30,000 just this summer for my listings in bookings just in the last 3 months, that are all direct bookings, all from people that have booked with me and stayed with me in the past, right? So don't build your business on somebody else's land. Build your business to grow and to grow your brand so that you can have repeat clients that is not built on Airbnb and not built on Verbo. So that's it on the cancellation policy side. Now on the payment term side, this one's pretty interesting. I read their new updates for probably about an hour on Monday this week when they first released this. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of technical jargon in there, some that doesn't really apply to the United States. But the one thing that I found that was really interesting, there's really two. One, for short-term stays. If a guest files a chargeback, we basically have no way to fight that. So, meaning if a guest decides to stay at your property and they use a credit card, Airbnb is the merchant of record, and they use their credit card. And then basically they tell their credit card company, hey, I didn't actually stay there, remove that. We have no way to contact Airbnb's bank to dispute that. Right. So Airbnb as basically the holder of the money, if they dispersed it back out to us, they can also take it back. So the way that we would fight that, and what I recommend to everybody, is you need to have a signed rental agreement that has the terms of the stay all in that signed rental agreement. You need the guest to sign that. And if you have that, it makes fighting chargebacks a lot easier. The verbiage that they put in this new payment terms of service was, I'm not going to talk about the 5 paragraphs that they put in there, but if I'm just going to sum it up, I recommend you guys have Airbnb guests sign a rental agreement that has all of the details of the stay and also makes them liable, and basically have some language in there. Get it from a realtor, get it from your property manager if you're using one, get it from your attorney if you really need to save yourself from having to dispute chargebacks. So that's it for today, folks. Long story short, make sure you're educated and you're making the changes to the policy based on what you think is best for you. Like I mentioned, if you're struggling right now, you may want to look at cancellation policy and making that a little bit more relaxed. You also need to look at what your booking window is for your market as well. So our guests, booking in July, or our guests booking in August, in January, and, somebody canceling a week in advance would really mess up your business and really put a big ding in your business. You need to know that, right? And so for a lot of people, that's going to be very important, especially if you're in a beach market or really a vacation rental market. Maybe you need to be looking at strict 30 or strict 50. So do some research, look at the data. You can use AirDNA, you can use some of the other tools out there, track your conversions, use RankBreeze, track your views, and get those rental agreements, guys. So we'll see you guys next week.